Welcome, everyone. This is SehoPod episode 21. We find ourselves in a very unique situation where I'm sitting here with
Tyler Wasserman.
Tyler Wasserman. Thank you for being here, Tyler. How are you today?
Thank you for having me, Seho. I'm very good, thank you.
Tyler is the most unfamiliar guest I've had on this podcast so far. Let me explain. This podcast is primarily full of family and friends who I've already developed relationships with before them coming on to my podcast to some degree. I'd say probably the most unfamiliar I've been with a guest is with Patrick Mills. But even before, so I podcasted with him the first time we hung out in person, but even before then we had called before and texted. The story with Tyler goes is that Tyler Instagram direct messaged me, like the beginning of the school year, right?
It's now April.
What's up?
It's now April, so...
Yeah. Sometime last semester, and you just had some encouraging words from me. I really appreciated that. You were like, you just thought the podcast was cool.
Yeah.
And we're like, it'd be cool for... you said something like, I'd love to participate, or how it would be so cool to do something like this where I can capture my thoughts in a moment in time and then look back on it to see how things have changed or how I've changed. Something like that,
Mm-hmm.
He said.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, dude, that means you can be on and we can talk. And then come April 2nd, 2025, and now we're sitting here. And even now, I have not really told Tyler much about what this is about or what we're even going to talk about. But if I can kind of explain now, I will just kind of ask about your life. Maybe this can be the start of a friendship, Tyler.
Hopefully. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Hopefully, that would be cool. So this is like an interesting experiment going on, like a social experiment. At the end of this conversation, maybe we find out we really just despise each other,
Maybe.
That wouldn't happen.
Something deep in our past.
I have good faith in Tyler. Anything you want to say? Any introductory statements?
Nothing's planned. I have nothing planned out to say. I'm coming in here, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. Hopefully I get to learn about Seho and his life. He's a super interesting guy from what I know. I think you had the story of how we interacted previously, almost exactly correct. I just said I think I was a little bit more you could turn it into a business side.
Oh.
I was like, okay, well, because it's a desire I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love, you can ask my friends, I love if I could record my thoughts at a certain time, a year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years down the line, I can look back on all the time capsules and be able to wow, that's Tyler from 5 years ago. And I've done a lot of these with my friends where we'd be on vacation and we set up a 5-minute video and we just start talking to it.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, trust me, you're going to want to do this. In 5 years, you're going to appreciate this.
Yeah.
And so when I approached you, I watched a few episodes, really, really briefly. The one I remember was with Ashton.
Yeah.
And it's damn, if people had motivation to do this, people don't do this kind of stuff, and then I feel they regret it. When they don't record their younger or older selves' thoughts.
Sure.
I feel for me, I think I do and I would. So if there's a way to make something like this that's or this is the introduction when I DM'd you. Okay, make it a system where you go out and people record their thoughts, people record what they want, and so it's a time capsule so they can look back on it and be happy that they did something.
Yeah.
I don't really know exactly what that would look like fleshed out, but I don't know. I thought it was a cool idea, and so yeah, now we're here, I guess.
There you go.
That's how the introduction happened.
Let's go. Tyler Wasserman, please tell me your life story.
Very broad. That's very broad. Very broad.
Take it as you will.
Let me think for a second of how to tell the story. So far, it's a developing story still. So okay, we can start pretty light. So I'm 20 years old, sophomore at BC. I'm gonna be turning 21 this year. I grew up in New York.
Where in New York?
Long Island.
Where in Long Island?
Right in the middle of Nassau and Suffolk County.
Okay.
My house is on the border. grew up in a town called Huntington with my family, father, mother, 2 other siblings, and 2 dogs. Very close with all of them. Grateful for that. I went to school in Long Island for high school. I loved high school, played a bunch of sports, played piano. Over the years, I think as high school kind of developed, I got a little bit more interested in entrepreneurship stuff. So kind of finding my own way in providing value somehow, whether it's building, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I got kind of into trading in high school, and spend a very large majority of my waking hours working on that, which I think is very entrepreneurial, even though it's just trading. When I was applying to colleges, my first choice college was a college called Deep Springs College. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a very small ranch school in Eastern California.
Wow.
Very small. It's 24 kids.
What?
And 24 kids.
How did you find out about Deep Springs College?
24 kids. Just research. I really wanted like a college experience that wouldn't just be like the typical 4-year experience.
That's extremely atypical though. Like you went to the...
I wanted something that like I felt identified with the values that I believed, like that I held myself true to at that time.
Sure.
So Deep Springs College preaches a few things. They preach manual labor as one of their principles, leadership, and like self-reflection, studying a philosophy. And so what they do, you go for free. It's a 2-year program, after which you transfer to a different college for 3rd and 4th year. So I was still getting the best of both worlds, right? I could still experience a college life. But I thought that'd be cool. I thought like living with 12 other people in my year, becoming really close-knit through hard times, working together, working on the field. It was like a farm.
Yeah.
You're working on a farm, you're herding the cattle, and then you're also studying like very rigorous academics. No electronics, no contact with the outside world. It's just that world.
Huh.
That was my first choice out of high school. It was pretty weird, not gonna lie. But that was my first choice. I didn't get in. So I said, okay, the next best option is the school that I get into that is the highest ranked finance program.
Okay.
Because as I said, I was super into the trading stuff as well.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to pursue that, and I thought the best school, or the school with the best finance program would kind of help that. Something of the sorts. And so now I'm a sophomore at BC, and that's how we're here. That's a very broad, high-level view of my life, taking away a lot of personal things that happened, which we can go into, and kind of taking away a lot of like, the small ups and downs, I guess.
Yeah.
Even the big ups and downs.
Thank you for sharing. Now it's my turn to ask follow-up questions. 2 siblings. Let me guess. I'm going to say brother and a sister.
Correct. Brother and sister. Can you guess which one's
And-
older, which one's younger, or which order it is in terms of age?
You have a younger sister.
I have a younger brother.
An older sister?
Older sister.
Okay. Okay. Tell me more about them and your relationship with them.
So, I think I'm very close in different ways to both of them today. Like nowadays, I think when I was younger, there was a lot of fighting between my brother and I.
Okay.
It was,
How much younger is he?
So he's 2 years younger.
Okay.
Great question. My sister's 4 years older.
Okay.
My brother's actually coming to BC next year.
No way. My brother, who's a senior, is also coming to VC
That's
next year.
sick. That's awesome. So maybe they'll be friends. Hopefully they'll be friends.
Maybe. I know a lot of people in our grade whose younger sibling is
They're
coming
coming
to
to
VC.
BC. And they're seniors now.
The siblings, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, but so he's super excited. He ED'd one. I think he liked it. Like he's visited me multiple times and he loves it here. We have a great relationship now. I think when we were younger, we both used to oftentimes play the same sports, play the same instruments, and I think that probably spawned a lot of competitive, bickering.
Yeah.
We always wanted to be the better soccer player, better hockey player, all that stuff. But I think as we kind of got older, we got to see like there's more to it than just like competitiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think our relationship kind of changed more so into like I think a healthier brotherly relationship.
Yeah,
like we can
good.
talk openly now about things. Sometimes he feels more comfortable talking to me than parents, just because brother to brother is maybe easier than brother to mom or brother to dad.
Sure.
And same for me with him. I think that's really cool. Yeah, My sister, she's 4 years older. She's working in finance in the city now. She's had a very atypical path. So she hated her high school at the end, and she went to school in Europe, in St. Andrews, Scotland, and she loved that. And now she ended up back in New York City.
Wow.
No clue how, but that's what she's doing. And she says she likes it. I hope she likes it. I think she'll probably succeed in whatever she wants to do. I think she's very she has a lot of traits that, when combined, I think can lead to a lot of success, or what society views as success today, which I think is great. And I think that I'm very excited for wherever she goes.
Yeah. And what's your brother's name?
Aiden.
Jenny, Tyler, Aiden. Nice.
Sophia is my older sister.
Oh, I heard Jenny for some reason. Sophia, Tyler, Aiden.
Yeah,
got it.
That's three.
Great. Tell me more about your entrepreneurial / trading pursuits.
Yeah, so since sophomore year of high school, the trading stuff has been a massive obsession of mine. Just massive. I think if you were to ask my high school friends pre and post that kind of development, I think I distributed my time very differently in life, for better or for worse. And it just when I find something that I really like, I think I dedicate a lot of time to it. Time, passion, mental energy, just everything. I just kind of put my whole self into that thing. Before that, I had a few different projects that I would put everything into, and so when I was Googling and found what's trading stuff, day trading, stock trading, all that stuff, just became interested in it, and I didn't really know I was gonna stick with it. I don't really go into things with a master plan. This is my step A, step B, step C. I've tried to do that before, and honestly, it fails most of the time.
Yeah, master plans usually fail.
I don't know why that is. I mean, it just doesn't work. I just kind of it sounds kind of counterintuitive. I'm a pretty, I think, logical person, but kind of have to follow the passion, I feel I don't know. I feel so far in my life, I mean, I'm still super young, but all of the things that I spend a lot of time doing and ultimately I think find success in are things that I just naturally like to do, versus things that I force myself to do that I don't like, usually don't really go anywhere. Or they get somewhere and then they fail eventually. So the trading stuff, I got into that, basically hours a day for a few years. Learned to code, kind of became more quantitative end of high school, and continued it in college, and I'm still doing that basically every day. Plan to do that as my career. Out of college, I'm not recruiting for the job. I know everyone here, I don't know if you felt it, up in Roncalli, everyone there is recruiting was recruiting for investment banking, consulting, all the finance stuff, which I think is great. It just I didn't really feel that connection to those things. I think partially because I have that passion for this kind of puzzle solving and brainstorming kind of trading work that I do. It's very research heavy. So a lot of time is spent looking at patterns and trying to correlate patterns to cycles and themes within the economy. And we don't have to get too technical with that stuff. I mean, I love talking about it, but it's just kind of nerdy trading stuff. But a lot of time is spent looking at a screen and just reviewing charts and patterns. And so that's the passion for me. That's where it's just I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's pattern recognition. It's a puzzle that's always changing that you can never really fully solve, right? Yeah, I think it's just really cool. So I don't know. I can talk more about trading. Other entrepreneurial stuff. I mean, freshman year, my friend Bradley Harrington. Do you know Bradley?
No.
Okay, we were both in ELP together. We started GrubSwap, which was campus food delivery. I don't know if you heard of it.
Oh.
We only ran it on BC, and we basically used all the excess dining dollars that other kids had to purchase food, and we delivered to people's dorms. And it was doing great. It was and we put a lot. I'm kind of summarizing. Basically, we got venture funding from a firm called SSC Venture Partners, SSC Venture Capital, and we came back, started sophomore year, so this year, and we just started delivering food. We were just, let's rip it. Let's see what happens. we scaled it to the point, like, we had employees. We were doing, like, 30, 40 orders a night. And pretty big operation. And then eventually BC poked their head in. Administration came in. They say, you making money off of our money? Off their extra dining dollars?
Yeah.
And we said, yes. And then basically, long story short, we were in like a 1 to 2 month fight with them. We sent them all these documents, all these prospectus things. They shut us down.
Oh.
They shut it down.
What?
So GrubSwap joined the graveyard of dead tech startups.
Dang, dude, that's tough.
No, it's tough, but it was a fun journey. Like, again, like, it never felt like work, right? It didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to work today.
Yeah.
I'm not doing something that I just don't want to do. It was exciting to do. It was fun. So I don't know. I feel like that's a common trend with the trading stuff, the entrepreneurial stuff, and what I try and live my life like is like enjoy it for the moment, not for like some result that maybe you can get. I don't know if that principle is the best principle. I'd be curious to kind of hear your view from a more, what I understand, Christian background / perspective of living life for the thing that you're doing now, like for the sake of itself, or for a goal after like some time in between. So like, or should there be a balance? Should you do everything just because you love that thing? Or should you do something because 5, 10, 20 years down the line, you're investing in a better future, quote unquote, for yourself or for others, something like that. Does that idea kind of make sense?
Yeah. Very broadly, I think with a Christian perspective, it starts that if I have accepted Christ, I look forward to eternity in heaven with Christ. So that's the greatest big picture perspective. And then within that, I guess it's all that I do. How does that help me to presently receive and understand, his love for me and his call for me and his purpose, his mission for me? Because, it's not like there is still a purpose in life on earth. Because if not, then, this is extreme, but the rite of passage would be you accept Christ and then you die. There's still life on this earth, and so what are we to do with that? And so I always say it is for me to receive his love, to fully, as much as possible, understand, digest it, receive it, and then go about sharing it with others. And so I center my everything around that. So, and I think it's extremely important to live in the present. And for me, it is to see, what God has for me in store every moment. I believe in free will, but I also believe that, God has a will for me in my life. So, for me, I'm trying to align my will to his will. And so, just being aware of his presence, and also, he gifted me and all of us with passions and talents and abilities that I want to make the most out of, to help other people, to serve and love well. So I think the short answer is to live in the moment, in the present, but also with the knowingness of the ultimate destination, goal, purpose, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. I think I've heard, maybe not that exact thing, but I've heard similar things. Like live in the present, but also this, or also that. I don't know how to actually do that tangibly. Tangibly, if you're thinking about something to do or a course of action to take, I don't know how to, maybe it's you can't, maybe we can't even, maybe I just don't know how to think about it, but am I doing this? Also, I don't even know, are we even capable of recognizing if we're doing something just because we, I don't know, I feel like there's loads of biases that come into play when we start saying, am I doing this because I want to be doing it now? Or am I doing it because I want to maximize the returns in the future?
Yeah.
How do we even, I don't know, that's something that I think about when I hear a response like that.
Yeah, that's a good question and good thing to consider. The way I would counter that is, at the end of the day, we just gotta live and do, and so we can think about that in terms of, And that's a good point. Like, I mean, I can't argue with, like, if you say that you can't tangibly understand that, like, who am I to say you, like, why not, like, understand it? But at the end of the day, you just gotta do and live, and so I don't, I guess, question it as much as you, just for the sake of, let me get this done. And I feel like I have this conviction, this instinct that what I'm doing is present, and I know that when I am being present and intentional, like, I can feel it, and so I'm just gonna kind of follow that. And if I feel otherwise, then I'm going to try to shift. But
Right.
I don't think I question it beyond that.
There's almost an element of like why just like live, you know. I kind of agree with that. It's like in the end of the day, we have like, I always say this to my friends, you literally have like 80 years left on this planet.
Yeah.
Probably in good health, statistically speaking, less, but hopefully as long as possible, right? But like why spend time thinking, like why not just like do what, maybe just like live, see what happens, like live.
Yeah.
Maybe like have faith that it'll be good in the end, and just kind of like live wherever your inclinations or friends or your own desires take you. I don't really know. Like there's like, I don't know. That's also a thought in my head. It's like you can question all these things, which maybe is meaningful, or you can just kind of live, which maybe is more meaningful.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not really a question to you. It's just rhetorical thoughts.
Yeah. And same thing with that. You need to balance the two, right?
Right.
You got to live, but you also got to consider, like, why am I here? You know? And the people who just live or only think all the time, like, yeah, you got to find the balance.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me more about what you want to do with trading. So, like, if you're not interested in the main, like, business recruiting internship type stuff, like, what is your, I mean, if you do have one, like, what is your vision for future career? But also, like, what do you want to do like during your college summers, like this summer or next summer?
So I think this answer can change a lot. I think if I meet one person, it can change.
Okay. As in, you're saying that if you meet someone and they say something interesting, you're like, I want to do that?
No. As in I think I can have a plan. It kind of ties back to the master plan idea. I can have a plan as to like what I want to do in the long run and also this summer.
Sure.
But say I meet one person that connects with me in a way that no one else has in the past.
Sure.
Whether platonically or romantically. Like I feel like those plans, I feel like I would value that person and those ideas higher than those plans. I think I would. Other people could say that's stupid. Other people could say it's not. I don't really know. I just like knowing my life and like my what I feel towards those things right now.
Yeah.
I think I would say that they can change because of that.
Yeah.
I would say like tentatively my plan is to continue being practically full time with the trading stuff over the summer. I'm fortunate enough I can go back home to my parents during the summer. And they can, you know, I like my own bedroom there. I basically just do work in the bedroom.
Yeah.
For many hours a day. I hang out with my hometown high school friends. We play pickleball a lot, tennis.
Sure.
Tennis. I was a tennis player first. I'm not like a pickleball player, but I like pickleball.
Yeah. Fun.
But yeah, it's fun. Hang out with friends, just like focus on that. I think I've had a lot of like internal struggle, and I talk to my father about this all the time. I'm at BC, this quote unquote prestigious institution for finance. How can I be saying no to like a given internship opportunity over the summer to like spend it in my bedroom working on trading stuff? Especially during the IB recruiting process earlier this year, that was a struggle for me during October and November. My team, we did very well in the RBC case competition. Yeah. And so after that, there was like a lot of quote unquote, like not keep saying quote unquote, but like excitement around going into IB.
Yeah.
And I had to step back and say, what do I want my life to look like 3, 4, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? And I think coupling that with like weighing, I guess like how far I think I can get in trading in terms of monetary success. So couple money, lifestyle, and like control over my own time, and like when I weigh those three things, I think the lifestyle, I think overall it's more ideal with trading
Okay.
than a corporate job.
Sure.
But like, it's difficult because my instinct when I'm going through tough decisions is to talk to friends, is to ask people for advice, right? But in my specific shoes, with my inclinations and my traits and my weirdness and my whatever, like I think everyone has like their own set of inclinations and character traits. Unless someone has those things that are very similar to me,
Yeah.
down the line, it's difficult to get like real applicable advice. Because I can ask an experienced managing director at a bank, hey, I'm a sophomore in college, this is what I'm struggling with, what do you think I should do?
Mm.
And his advice is going to be grounded in his 50 years of life experience.
Sure.
And maybe he'll think back to when he was a sophomore in college. When he was a sophomore in college, probably doesn't look like my sophomore year in college.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's better or worse or good or bad, but just I think we all have different experiences, and so we have to make decisions based on those. And so that was a time where I was like, there aren't really people who spent, as a sophomore in October, November, there's not really someone I can ask who has spent the last 4 years focusing on a single niche within a very particular kind of trading.
Sure.
And so I can't really say, should I do trading as a career or should I do IB as a career? Because no one really knows the extent of what I'm doing except for myself. And so there's an element of like, you kind of have to like be like, all right, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to like, I've been doing this. I think I have conviction in it. Let's see what happens. And so that was like a scary thought. I don't really know what your initial question was, but that was a scary thought. And I think at this point in time, I'm at a stage where I have a much higher degree of conviction in it being a career, like a sustainable career, and will allow me to live the lifestyle that I want, which is really ability to kind of like, I think just like do my own thing.
Yeah.
For some reason that feels easier to me than trying to excel at something that others are telling me to do. I struggle with that. It's difficult for me to like be very good at something that I just don't have passion for.
Yeah. The nature of that work seems largely independent, as you've been saying. Are you okay with that?
That's an interesting question. I think it's anything but independent. I've been on the trading journey with one friend since like late sophomore year. If it weren't for him, I would not be there. I just wouldn't be doing it. I think it'd be too lonely, maybe a little bit boring,
Yeah.
and too difficult. Trading is a particular career where like, it's not like a job where when you sign up, you start getting paid every year, right? It's a path where you don't even know what you're signing up for. And then when you do sign up, it takes years to have any like legitimate returns, and years before like it being a career even is like a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And to do those first few years without a friend, I think it would kind of be sad and kind of like way more difficult. So like all the work I do with trading, like maybe 80% of it is with a friend.
Good.
It's not alone.
Nice.
Which for me, like I've tried, and I do work alone sometimes. It's so much harder. Like in general, like the grub swap stuff, that was with Bradley, right? And I've tried doing projects on my own. It's so much harder. There's something like different, just like working with other people, so much better. It like night and day.
Yeah.
Independent stuff is tough for me.
Well, I was gonna say if you did say like you were doing this all by yourself, I was like, dang, that seems kind of tough. But I'm glad you have a friend you've been walking through that with.
Yeah. I don't think I would say that would be it would not be a career I would recommend if you didn't have like a community or a friend, at least one person who is going through a similar journey as you, because the problems that you face and the challenges that you go through, and the challenges that you face are so unique to that kind of industry. So to have someone doing that with you, world of difference.
Yeah.
World of a difference.
Yeah. These days with trading, are you seeing relatively consistent profits, like monetary gains?
I would say this year, one thing, I probably won't go into the numbers or anything, but the strategies that I have been working on, like I think they've finally been able to like developed to an extent where they are profitable. So I would say yes is the short answer. Since the summer, like really, as sophomore year has taken off, it has been, and I think will continue to be exponential style returns. I think the way, again, trading works is you put years in without really any idea of what's going to happen. You just have to like stick it because you're passionate about the work itself. And so I think I'm kind of like, I'm still a newbie in the scheme of things, right? I've been there for 4 or 5 years. People have been there for 20 years. And those are like the real masters, right? But I'm sure they have a similar mindset where they're like, all right, we're here for 20 years, but there's always things to learn. So I think I'm kind of like on like step one of kind of like a new phase that I've reached. But yeah, they've been, I guess, consistent in that they are exponential at the moment, which I think is cool. But it with that comes its own set of challenges and its own set of problems, and it's never just easy coasting. When you're losing money, or when you're not making money, there's an element of, this is exciting because I'm working towards something that is like, you have a tangible goal. You're like, damn, I want to make this succeed. And then if you start making money, there's a lot of negative effects it has on your mindset that I think I have worked hard to try and remove. But I'm still struggling with that. And I think it will fall on deaf ears to people who don't really go down that specific road and face those problems, honestly. I think I'm not able to really like articulate to the extent that I think is felt with people who go through it. Is that what I just said?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not great at like articulating certain ideas, but yeah, that's been a thing that I've like tried to, or am working on actively with my friend.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think my life will ideally look like trading work as well as time for startups and building other companies, whether it's companies, nonprofits, charities, things like that. I think that's the stuff I'm passionate about.
Nice. How does it feel? Like, quick question: the profits you're making, like, are they liquid? As in, like, you can are making money while you're doing it to be able to spend.
I don't really spend money.
Right, but like you can.
It's all cap. It is, so it's short-term trading. So it's not like held in an asset that I can't.
Yeah.
So it is liquid.
Yeah. Just like, how does it feel to be making? I mean, I don't know how much you're making, but whatever chunk of change you're making, like during college. I mean, I guess it's also different because you said you don't really spend your money, but.
Yeah, but I think overall my response would be I mean, if you ask anyone, would you rather make money or lose money? Everyone's gonna say make money. Mm-hmm. But it really comes with its set of challenges in terms of the mentality. It's probably set me back socially this year, for a bunch of reasons. But in terms of like, I think there are things that I could have done earlier in this year that I didn't really. I think I'm happy with the life I'm living now and the last like few months, but I think like I just, it's very difficult for me to like, I didn't really know how to prepare for that, honestly. I didn't know how to prepare for the transition of like kind of being flat to it being consistently exponential. And so when it was happening, the mindset was just like every day that's what I was thinking about. Every single day for maybe like a while, maybe a month, 2 months. And it makes it very difficult to stick to the processes and routines that kind of got me there in the first place. And I tried, like you read every book, you read every financial, behavioral psychology book out there that can relate to the topic. And that's what I did. I read a lot of books on this stuff. And even with that, even all these psychological defenses that you could say you could build up, which probably are just hurting, or maybe it's not even helping. My mindset, I'm still completely human. I'm still completely vulnerable to pluses and minuses and insecurities and vulnerabilities and all that stuff and biases. So I would say, like, on my mindset and my overall emotional well-being, I would say it's pretty neutral, if not slightly negative. I think on my confidence on it being a valid career, I think that's been a positive effect. As in, it's easier to tell yourself that something can be a career if you have some results versus if you're doing it for 4 years and you have 0 results, right? It's just easier. So that's I guess kind of how I'd answer that question.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was kind of like
that was
blabber
good.
out, but that's kind of how I think of it.
What's your perspective on money? Like, what do you want to do with money? Why money.
I don't really know what it should be. I don't know what my perspective should be yet. I think my perspective on a lot of things is that we can choose our perspective. And so I'm tentative of declaring certain strong beliefs because I kind of want to be growing as a person, so I want my beliefs to be changing, I think. So money right now, for example, like a few months ago, I would say, okay, well, I want to make a lot of money so I can pass it on to the next generation. I don't really know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the best way to live. I don't know if that's the best belief to live a good life. Like my idea is like I want to establish a collection of beliefs that can help me live a happy life where I'm happy and my loved ones are happy and I'm making a positive change. And so I don't really know if like just like sitting there making a bunch of money in the long run, hopefully in that case, is like the best way to live and like keeping that.
Yeah.
The last few months, I'd say emotionally, it's really not. So my perspective on money, I don't spend money. Maybe like, so these shoes, these white shoes, I'm a big believer in if you want something, you should wait a long time before you buy it to make sure it's not an impulse purchase. So the first time I said I wanted a pair of white sneakers, I buy like one pair of shoes every like 2 years. First I said I want a pair of white shoes. I said that in like October. I think I waited until like November 18th to buy these shoes. Like 2 months, a month and a half almost. And they're not like pretty expensive, but it's just like, and then by the time I got it, and it's like by the time I got them, I was so grateful. I was so happy. Like, and even now I look at them, I'm just like happy I have white sneakers. They're not like particularly like crazy special ones. It's just like I don't know. I like making it so it's not an impulse purchase. I hate like spending money on impulse. I just hate it. So I don't know. I guess that's one perspective. Is like I like waiting and thinking on things before I spend money. Just in general, I don't really like the idea of spending money on things that aren't really necessary, or if they're not necessary, wait a while to see its like genuine desire. That's that perspective, I guess. Yeah, I think like trading time for money doesn't sit well with me. People would say, oh yeah, like why are you doing banking? They say, oh, I want to make money, man. Which to me is an interesting thought because I just like, when I went into the trading stuff, my desire, my reason for being there was passion. It was curiosity. It was, and I knew there was potential monetary gain, but like, I don't know. The idea of like working, in that context, I think is very different for everyone, right? Everyone has different circumstances, and it's not bad or good. It just is different. That's an idea that I was talking about the other day. If I'm not passionate about something, it's very difficult for me to do something, right?
Yeah. Could you tell me more about the trade-offs that happened with you spending your time doing trading, especially this school year? And you were saying how maybe things, like you said, socially maybe suffered a little bit. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So what my normal day looked like first semester of sophomore year, and every day freshman year, and every day in high school usually, more so in college because you customize the classes, was I scheduled all my classes in the afternoons. So 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. are my classes this semester. Last semester was a little bit later. And so you wake up early, like 6:30 or so. You're either researching or you're actively placing trades until midday with a break for lunch or breakfast and lunch. Or I bring the breakfast and lunch to the desk. The Roncalli basement this year has been like my room pretty much. Everyone always sees me. I'm down. I mean, first semester I was down there literally just all the time. So you're spending an egregious amount of time at the computer, which I was like, it's not like a holy sacrifice. It's like this is passion. Like I do enjoy it. Like I'm not like I'm grinding away for the money. You know, it's like what I'm doing is like I'm genuinely enjoying the researching aspect of it. which is like the pattern recognition stuff and like solving that stuff. But that's just kind of like one thing, right? And then so after classes, you have, if you're waking up at like 6 or so, 6:30, you want to get 8 hours of sleep, so you're going to bed by 10. So you have like 4 until 10. You have time for dinner, and then you fit in probably 2 to 4 more hours of trading work, which is like reviewing stuff. And you have a few hours for homework and then a few hours for social stuff. That's what like a normal day would look like, freshman year and first semester sophomore year. And so, you know, I don't think I spent less time than I could have with friends. I think when it comes to potential love interests, I think my mind would be like, you know, oh, well, you know, I have so much things to work on. I don't have time for that, or I shouldn't pursue that, or I shouldn't pursue this, or talk to this person, ask this person out. So, you know, is the problem with the schedule that I live, or is the problem with the mindset that I allowed myself to have, or just that I developed? Probably the latter, I think. I think like you can have that schedule and still have time for friends, and still have time, like you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have 7 nights a week, and you don't have to be working every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. You don't have to be. I wasn't, but the majority of times I was. But I think, you know, I think there's a healthy balance, and I think I'm getting better with finding it. I think I took pretty drastic measures because I want to find that healthier balance. But like freshman year and first semester sophomore year, it was just all that. It was only working, with occasional Saturday excursions with friends. But I think because I had a passion that I was working towards, or working on, I would kind of say other things can go on the back burner for now. I don't really know if it's good or bad. Again, like if I could ask someone who had like my set of inclinations, what do you recommend? Maybe I'd get something. I don't know. But like they say youth is important in life, so like you want to have experiences that you can only have when you're young, right? You don't want to just like skip out on all experiences, which I think I did have a lot of experiences. I'm happy with that. But I think I definitely could have been more initiating with a lot of things, stepping out of my comfort zone. You know, having something that's like so work intensive, it's very easy to kind of retreat into that and just have that be my bubble of like, I don't want to say protection, but like comfort.
Yeah.
Because it's what I know. I do it so much. So do you want to step out of your comfort zone, go talk to a group of people that you don't really know, talk to some girls that you don't really know, or, you know, okay, have a quiet night, study, continue getting better in that particular context, things like that. Yeah, I think it's a very rough idea, but that's kind of like how I would kind of paint that picture.
How did you make those changes this semester in terms of creating more balance for social life or for friends?
Well, so I went to Morocco for spring break. Went to Africa for spring break. It was incredible. I went with some high school friends, and since then, I've been on a complete hiatus from trading.
Oh, wow.
First time ever, actually. I've never taken a break longer than a weekend of trading since since 2020. So I haven't looked at a screen at all since before spring break, so whatever that was. What is that, March 10th or something? March 15th?
Sure.
And I just said, you know what? I want to make sure that I don't regret the rest of sophomore year.
Thanks.
So I just started like talking to more people. I just like hanging out with more of my friends on lower, because I live on upper, which is kind of sucky, honestly. Calling my high school friends more, and just putting myself out there with new people here at BC. You know, I think I know a lot of people casually, as in like, oh hey, what's up? My name's like, hey, how are you? And then we walk past. Casually meaning like, we're not like good friends, but we just see each other on campus, and they know either my face or my name, and I know either their face or their name, or both, and we wave. And so when I talk to people, they say like, oh my god, you mean you want friends? I mean, you know so many people. But it's like, you know, like you want, and I do have friends. I have very good friends. I'm very close to my roommate. But like, you want to put yourself out there in different kinds of ways. And so I think I've done that much more. Just kind of, I think the reason is I don't know, like, I just, like, we only have so much time. Like, you gotta, at a certain point, if something is important enough, like, I feel like you gotta take action.
Yeah. How has that been this past month?
I mean, it's different. I definitely like routine. I like consistency. I like waking up at the same time every day, which I haven't been. But socially, I think it's been great. I think it's been really important. I think it's been really, I think I've grown, honestly, in the last month. Which I don't think I could say for a lot of the other months that I've lived at BC. It's exciting because, like, you don't necessarily know what's going to come next. Like, okay, now I got lunch with this person, what comes next? I got, met up with these two people that I don't normally meet up with, what comes next? You don't really know. And that's exciting. And I think there is a healthy way to balance these two things. I think I went from one end of the extreme to the other, which I think was important. And I think as kind of like, just as I'm coming to now, like, I think I'm able to craft a schedule and like a daily routine that has like a healthy balance. I think. We're going to try it. We're going to see what happens. It's like a running experiment.
I'm really impressed that you were able to take this hiatus, because I know how, not trapped, but like, when that becomes routine, like, you're in that, and to have a kind of perspective where you can kind of bird's eye view and take yourself out of it for, I don't know, however long you're doing this, but yeah, it can be really good, and clearly it has been so far.
It's been incredible so far, like really good. I think Morocco, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like, you go to Africa and people live, like, life there is so different from life here. Like, this is beyond different. We went to Marrakesh, so it's a very popular city. It's not like super, it's kind of like it's closer to cities that I'm used to than other places you could go in Africa, but it's still so different. And I was gonna say, it sounds cheesy because, like, you go somewhere new and like you have a whole new perspective.
No, that is what happens.
It definitely helps. Like, perspective really helps.
Yeah. How long do you foresee this hiatus going?
I don't know. It might end. I might return, or like some balanced schedule next week. I'll probably rebalance how I'm spending my time in the next week or so. I think I'm happy with honestly, like, just like the direct changes I made with talking to people. Like, I feel like my social situation is just very different from what it was before spring break.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I'm just happy with that. I'm really happy with that. So, like, I think that was kind of like one of the things I really was kind of panicking about beforehand. Like, I didn't want to just... I felt myself going on a road that I just knew I would regret. I just did not want to keep doing that. So happy I changed that. So I think slowly reintegrating it. I'm not going to be full-time, 8-10 hours a day doing it. But a few hours a day, I think I'll begin to reintegrate and kind of like, find a healthy balance, hopefully.
Yeah.
Something like that.
In addition to that and being with people and like growing in relationships, like, how do you think you have been just growing personally these days?
I think I've got a long way to go. I got a lot of growth to do. But I'm happy. I think my friends and I we've started being much more open. Meaning, we've always been open in terms of like discussing more so like philosophical ideas, but like with ourselves. So like, if there are things that there are things that I know I can work on myself. For example, communication. Oftentimes I will assume my close friends just like know what I'm feeling, and so I'll say a snarky remark and then it doesn't really convey what I'm feeling. And then it's like, it just creates like a multi-week long tension that's just unnecessary. In high school, when I'd have a problem with one of my best friends, I would kind of just drop them for a few weeks or a few months. They would very clearly see the difference. And that would feel like, okay, now it's good. He annoyed me, okay, I'm dropping him for months. Which is kind of like a ridiculous way to conflict resolve. It just takes so long. Like, you have 4 months step by, okay, first semester, okay, then you talk on the last day of fall semester, okay, we could have just resolved it with that. So I'm making, for the first time, active changes in my life with my friends to make sure that I am expressing what I feel even if it's uncomfortable and vulnerable and kind of embarrassing or scary, things like that, even if it might feel that way, you got to express it. You got to talk about it because it saves so much time. Like, there's no point. It's almost like you got to have self-respect almost. Like, there's no point in decreasing your quality of life for X amount of weeks or months when you could just talk about it and take the hit of vulnerability, which isn't even really a hit. I think it's actually good. So I think like, everyone always says it, but, like, it was so hard for me to really, like, swallow, just being vulnerable. Like, actually being vulnerable, I think can make a massive difference. Like, and it's always said, and I always agreed, but, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's tough to actually, for me, it was very difficult to implement. And I think it will still continue to be. But I think it's, like, I think I'm getting better with it, with my friends, in terms of communicating my feelings.
That's good. I've had some very vulnerable conversations with friends recently, and the immediate effect of how much deeper we understand each other as human beings is, like, so incredible.
It's astounding.
Astounding.
It has such an effect.
Yeah.
Why is that? Like, why does vulnerability have such, like, a powerful effect? Like, when you're being vulnerable with other people, with feelings or thoughts or ideas, like, why is that so like overpowered?
I think it's because, like, I think it's because the negative consequences that we are anticipating, like shame or shame, guilt, whatever it is, the fact that in vulnerability and when it goes well and that trust is built, like, all that stuff is overcome. I think that has a piece to do with it.
Overcome by a feeling of trust.
Yeah. Trust, love, compassion.
It's amazing. It's incredible. It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
It's like, once you do it, it feels so good.
Yeah.
But it's just scary. You got to take the leap.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big difference that I've been implementing. I think I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad that you're also having vulnerable conversations with friends.
Similarly, what are you struggling with most these days?
Probably that. That's probably it's, I don't know about struggling, but, like, definitely struggling. The thing that I'm trying to improve the most. Like, a lot of the, I think, growth can come from becoming more vulnerable on, like, a surface level and also a deeper level. And I think that kind of will lead to better communication, and more in touch with myself, and less pigeonholing into do something for 3 months and then regret it later. Because regrets, you don't want to feel regret when, 10 years down the line. Like, we can change things now. We're young, right? And this obviously changes for different perspectives of life, and what comes after. But, like, my view is I have one life and I want to live it the best way possible. And I don't want to be 30 years down the line and regret something. And I think in order to really, like, implement that style of thinking, you have to be willing to be vulnerable with yourself and your friends, which is for me, for some reason, it's just so difficult. It has been so difficult, and I think it still is. But, like, I'm really trying to crack down on it, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, I don't know. It's a tough thing for me. I don't know why it's tough.
Yeah. If I could encourage you, I would really say to ask insightful questions of people you're interested in. That could be your friends, that could be anyone else who you seem interesting and want to get to know. I think it starts with just genuine, like, curiosity about people, and people really notice that. And then, dude, what I've learned, especially being here, like, if you, like, I mean, even in this conversation now, like, one question leads to another, and if you kind of just ask the right questions, like, most people are willing to open up a lot more than you think. Like, people really do like to talk about themselves and about their lives. And if you are there with a, like, genuine curiosity and also, just being kind, respectful, loving, like, people will really open up, and that creates for some, like, really awesome, like, human moments, but also relationships that are to develop that you could have maybe never anticipated before.
You think it starts with a true and deep curiosity?
Yeah. Like, a just genuine curiosity about people. Do you think you have that?
I think I thought I did for a long time. I ask people a lot of questions. I think recently I'm less certain if it's genuine. I don't know if it's am I really curious about them, or am I curious about like testing my own like life ideas through other people.
Which I think this is something where I would err more on the side of like, don't question, just do. Because I think like that we were starting our conversation about that. I think it would be more helpful to just, even if, let's say, the core reality of it is that you are trying to test your life ideas through other people, to demonstrate that curiosity and try to learn about people. Because I think ultimately, like love and human connection like wins in the end. So somehow, if that is produced, even if it's like at its core and at its beginning a somewhat ulterior motive, I think it sounds cheesy again, but like love, human connection will conquer.
It supersedes that.
Yeah.
Right. I think I agree with that. I don't think you should just be like sitting there your whole life thinking about what to do. And I don't think I do, but like I think there are better ways to go about being curious in people. Better and worse way. Like I don't know about better or worse. I don't know about better and worse, honestly. But like it doesn't have to be like so like intense. You know, you don't have to be like a battering ram of questions.
No, I like that. Yeah.
Like, and I know that's not what you mean. I say that out of personal experience because I've been there and I've done that a lot. And like, I don't think it needs to be that. Like, it can be a more of a casual conversation that mixes in like lightheartedness, kindness, and also genuine curiosity. I think what you were saying before, I think you need if you're just questioning, like, you can't just do that. From my experience, because I've done that before, and it's just like it's not really pleasant, honestly, in the long run. So I think like just being like more relaxed almost, while still being genuinely curious, even if it's in the beginning ulterior motives, like you said. Like I feel like I think there is a healthy balance there.
Yeah,
I'm working to find more. So
I will also say there are people out there who are okay with the battle ram of questions. And so, like, because if I find people like that, I will hit them with the battle ram of questions. And, like, that is honestly really cool because I really like talking to people and, like, really getting the most out of them. Like, if they are willing to be vulnerable with me and open up to, like, really just, like, go all in and ask, like, everything I want to know about them. Because, and hopefully not in a weird way, but it just like I said, it just fosters a level of relationship that is like in no other way found than to simply like inquire of their like deepest like things within them. Yeah.
You know what? That strikes multiple chords inside. Like that I definitely agree. I think I agree. Like, and I think I have done that before. Sometimes it ends up well. I think my closest friend at BC, that's probably how I met him. Like, I would just, like, drill questions.
Yeah. And
he was someone who'd be, like, okay with it and would always give, like, genuinely fascinating answers.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd be like, damn, that's sick. And each time he would answer, I just want to ask more questions.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a script. It was just, like, you ask a question, you just have a desire to ask more questions.
Yeah.
And that's a time, sometimes that battering ram does, quote-unquote, hit. It does, quote-unquote, work.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels natural.
I was having a conversation with friends and we were saying like if you could only choose one defining characteristic of your future life romantic partner, like what is like the most important thing for you? And I remember my response, it was only a month ago, was like, I want them to be a fun person. Then 2 weeks later, I had a conversation with another friend outside of that conversation, which they didn't know we were talking about this. But they were talking about their current romantic partner. And they said how the reason they like them is because they are interesting. And then he was distinguishing between interesting and fun. And I then switched my mind because I understood what he was saying about like someone who's fun is someone who's like there to have a good time, can, you know, on a prime Friday or Saturday night be like the talk of the room and make everyone feel good. But someone who's interesting, they're not mutually exclusive,
Mm-hmm.
but someone who's interesting is someone who maybe is not the prime, you know, show time Friday, Saturday night, but is someone who like can be hit with a battle ram of questions and like have answers, like interesting answers ready to go. And so since then I've changed my mind. I want someone who's interesting. I want someone who can entertain my deep and maybe ridiculous questions and for that to be interesting and for them to have answers that I'm like that I learn something from, that I take something from.
So what if you found a potential romantic partner and you were deeply in love with them
Mm-hmm.
and they were not interesting?
I don't think I could ever fall in love with them if they were not interesting.
Is that like, why not? Like, how do you know? Like, what if you did? What if you did? Or you're saying there's an element of almost...
I think that would be impossible because I think that a lot... Okay, there's two kind of sides to this. There is a falling in love, there is a mystery to it that we can never quite understand.
Not logical.
Not logical. But there is also the logical choice to make, right? And so there would have to be both. And so even if there was the irrational, I think if they were straight up not interesting, my rational mind would be telling me this is not someone you can be spending the rest of your life with as soul partners.
But what if the irrational part overpowers that rational part?
I don't think it could. If someone's not interesting...
Doesn't fit that interesting box.
Yeah.
X on it.
Yeah.
No check mark.
Yeah.
You don't think it's possible?
Not possible.
But you don't actually know for sure. Like, it could in theory happen.
I don't think it could. If they're not interesting, I'm taking that very explicitly. If they're not
just the way you just described interesting before.
Yeah.
In that context, like
I mean, yes, exactly. Like there are different like varying levels of interesting, right? But if they're straight up not interesting.
If someone asks you, are they interesting, you say no. And
I couldn't know.
You don't think your heart could still love them?
No. I don't think so.
So that's interesting. So you think the heart...
Well, I could still love them, but I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't commit to a lifelong romantic love with them.
But what if the heart's telling you to do that?
I don't think it ever would. I think, again, there's a mystery to it, as in some things I will never understand about my heart, but I think I also know myself and know my heart to know that it would not do that.
You're saying it being the heart.
It being the heart, yeah.
And so, in theory...
Because also, like, I mean, in terms of also attraction as well, like, I just wouldn't be attracted to them.
If they weren't interesting.
If they weren't interesting.
Do you think, in theory, do you think that could be changed if you wanted that to change?
No.
You think that could change?
I don't think that could change. I think that is like a core part of who I am. Because, so in terms of finding romantic love, like the initial barrier is attraction, right? Like, so once you break through attraction, which there are plenty of people that I could be attracted to, but none that I find like, I mean, I hope this comes off the right way, but like worthy of like to be my, like to be the one for me.
Meaning
right?
like the rational part is saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I think if they were not interesting, I wouldn't even be able to break the initial barrier of attraction, as in be attracted to them in the first place.
Okay. My like what I'm trying to get at here is like how much of that is your choice throughout your life? Like you've built up that idea.
Yeah.
You've over your experiences over your life.
Sure.
You have become a person that says, I want to talk to interesting people. I can only be attracted, and it's gone like to an extent where it's I can only be attracted to interesting people.
Sure.
But you didn't come out of the womb saying that.
Yes.
Because everyone has other people might not say that.
Right.
So clearly there's something in your life rationally that's different from others that makes you have that belief.
Yes. But I also think that is who I am, that is like who God made me to be, and it is me discovering that for myself. Like it was always within me, and I'm like polishing the dirt off it.
So you're saying it wasn't a result of like the choices that you like the choices and the things that you chose to believe.
I'm sure there's some to do with that too, but I think at its core it is like it's just who I am.
It's discovering who you are.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And so then you would say like everyone is their own person and people are discovering themselves as they live. Like as you are discovering yourself and you've discovered your description of what the heart what your heart wants. I'm discovering myself, other people are discovering themselves in their own way with their own inclinations.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. And there are obviously external influences that shape who you are as well, but I think like personalities are a real thing. We're not all like
robots.
Yeah. we are born with unique identities and personalities. Yeah.
Right. That's an interesting one.
What are you living for, Tyler?
So my mind has not left the previous conversation.
Oh,
it's still thinking about that.
Okay. No, you can go on with the previous
I
conversation.
talked to my dad a few times, and we talked about like he would ask me, like we were talking about like literally this, like literally the rational and irrational sides of love in terms of romantic partners and like long-term life partners, wife for me or potential like eventually. And so, like, to what extent is it rational? And, like, you have, quote-unquote, criteria, almost. Like, I want them to be interesting. I want them to be fun. Things like that. And to what extent is it just whatever you feel inside? And so we were talking about, like, should there be a balance? Should it be, like, okay, they satisfy the interesting and the fun box, so that means it works? Like, or is it just, like, a feeling? And, like, once you have that feeling, it's going to be a lifetime partner. So like I don't know the answer. It's cool to hear your perspective that you think it's a balance of both. It's a balance of both, which I think it's just cool to hear. Like I think that's like something that I'm learning is like you think it's the feeling which can't really be described, right? There is an element of things that can't really be logically explained.
Sure.
And then there is also the thing of do they fit enough logical things for it to actually make sense?
Yeah.
Like the interesting box. Which I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that approach does make sense. I don't really know. I think my approach, or like my way of thinking, not approach, but like way of thinking is like a little bit lopsided in that there's like, I don't know, like I just don't know. I think kind of like doing is better than hypothesizing probably, and like learning about yourself is better. But I think right now, my idea is that there is a healthy balance somewhere. And I think the way you described it, that kind of like struck a chord. Because there is like almost like that balance idea that I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. But what am I living for? That's a big question. I don't really know if I have it fully worked out, honestly.
What are you living for now in this moment, in this time of your life, in this second?
In this second, I mean, I'm looking forward to dinner. Like, dinner's gonna be really cool. I think in this second, like, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day. In this second, I'm living, like, currently my level of curiosity is very high. I very much like learning about, like, just now, that was like a highlight of my day, just like learning about your perspective on certain things and then applying it to like my ideas and seeing how they shift. So I'm living right now, I think, talking to you. In the longer run, like I want to make my friends happy, my family happy, myself ideally happy. Throwing the word happy around a lot. I don't really know exactly.
Right. Is that happiness defined by the individual?
Right, or me.
Or you, or is there some objective happiness?
I think when it comes to happiness, I feel like there's a lot of talking that could be done, but it's also just like you gotta find what, like, I don't know, like I don't know how to describe it, but like there's something that works for me, I think, something that works for you, and people just gotta find it. I think if my family had very different metrics for what happiness was for them, probably wouldn't be that close with them. I think it has to be somewhat similar, somewhat, not the exact same, right? But somewhat similar. Like if someone gets happiness from like, I don't know, ramming a car into other cars. That's just a random thought I had. Like it's gonna be tough for me to also like be happy with them. Now it's also saying you get happiness from doing activities, which is a whole. Like there's so many assumptions layered into the idea of being happy, where like you have to like where is the ground zero? Where is like first principle for happiness? I don't know. But yeah, I guess I'm living like I want my friends to be happy. I want my long-term partner to be happy. I want them to feel safe and like challenged, like they're always working towards something. I think that's an important element. I don't think it shouldn't be like stagnant life, right? You shouldn't just be like sitting there stagnating in whatever you're doing, whether it's a journey of like one thing or the other. I think you should always be working towards improving somehow. So I'm living to improve in certain elements, like the self reflection with friends, the vulnerability stuff. That's like I find that to be very fulfilling. Like becoming a better or a healthier friend, I think is really exciting. Learning more about other people, yeah, I think those kinds of things. What about you? What are you living for? Who are you living for? How are you living for? I don't know which. You could kind of put like why, like any word.
Any word. Yeah, I was thinking the same. I'm living for. I'm living for. I just want to put this in the right.
No rush. Watching the sunset here, it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it is nice. It's a great view. I'm living for the advancement of the kingdom of God through, as I said previously, understanding His love, receiving it humbly, and sharing it with others, and wanting others to understand what took me years and still trying to understand it right now in my life, that we are all like just broken human beings, all in need of love, of reconciliation, of of just someone to help us, someone to guide us, someone to save us, and to realize that, or to help myself understand and then help others understand that, like, that Jesus was the one that provided that, and I have been convicted of that, especially nowadays, and so what I'm living for is to understand that for myself and engage in dialogue with others where, like, I want to know that, you know, their thoughts about that and how they view kind of purpose and just purpose and big questions for themselves, and I guess in that way just living to be a friend, to just be a friend to others, talk, love, and build relationships, spend time with others. That's what I'm living for. Kind of encapsulated a lot, but
from my perspective, that answer started with a very, like, openly religious tone, and as it went on, I don't know what the word is. It became more worldly, tangible.
Yeah.
Maybe also relatable, right? I don't come from a religious background.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're open to talking about, but, like, are you willing to? I know this is also kind of like skirting your whole response, but like, how did you build up to have the conviction that you have now?
Yeah.
With that stuff.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Like, did you come from? Are you even? Is Christian?
Yeah, Christian. Yeah.
Did you come from a Christian family? How did that like? How did you build up to that world belief? I think that's like, if I ask people why do you live, like that's a very defined, like you have an answer, like that's
Sure.
a clear reason.
Yeah.
And to have a reason, like such a, what I feel is a fleshed out reason to live at 20 years old, I feel like is very cool. So like, how did you, like, where does that come from? How did you do that?
Yeah, totally. It does help that my parents are Christian and raised me so. And were very convicted of themselves of the exact same thing. So I have 3 brothers, and when they raised us and continue to do so, they very much emphasized that knowing Jesus, accepting his kind of sacrifice and living out to try to, live a life like him and to love others in that way was the way to live, was the utmost important, and just the way our faith, our character, our heart, like those were the things that they were like, these are the most important, this is what you want to live for.
Just to interrupt, important to live for intrinsically or for the sake of? ?
For the sake of what now?
Like, they're saying these are the most important ways to live.
Yeah.
Why those ways? Like what? Why those? Like, what's the reason?
Yeah. To well, like the whole. Are you familiar with the gospel message? Just like the message of Christianity.
I studied the Bible in perspectives.
Yeah.
Very brief, like my very limited understanding is it's good for Christians to love others and to spread the love of God.
Sure.
That's
yeah.
like roughly what I know.
That is a piece of it. Glad you paid attention in perspective. The gospel message, so like the thing with Christianity is that we are all sinners and that we are in need of either A, to make a sacrifice ourselves, or B, in need of a savior. And so we believe that Jesus was that savior. Jesus was the incarnation of God, was the Son of God to come and to save us of all our sins, right? So that if we simply choose in our heart of hearts and accept to believe him as our savior, we get to be freed from our sins and live in eternity with him, right? So they believed that, were convicted of that. They both had, had to come to that on their own terms as well. And so they, in believing something so radical like that, I am believing in, for Christians to believe that, like, we are believing that as truth, like not just for ourselves, like we're gonna believe in this thing and like y'all can believe what you think. Like the Bible says, like Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. And so for them to believe that as truth, like, that means obviously they are going to let their children know that this is truth, right? Mm-hmm. So when I grew up, like God existing, I never questioned that. That always made sense to me. But then, like, come middle school, high school, didn't really have that many Christian influences around me other than my parents. And so I kind of veered from that. And then...
Veered from it meaning, like, not believing in God?
I did believe in God, and I still think I had faith, but I was just, like, not walking it out, like, not living by, like... just not living like Christ in the ways I was like treating other people, or the ways that I was kind of like just disobeying what like God's commands and things like that.
Right.
And very like actively so, like not just like, because we all mess up, but like me like knowing what I was doing was wrong and continuing to engage in that consistently.
Because lack of caring, or because you wanted to do it because it was...
Yeah, just lack of caring, wanted to do it. Just wanted to like pursue my own desires. Mm-hmm. And then and then by the end of high school, I was just kind of like, I just like didn't feel good about myself. I just, I just like knew there was more to life than, um, I don't know, just like, doing like stupid stuff with my friends and like getting drunk, and like it just kind of seemed, like what I was doing, it was in vain, and that there, like, I could be living a more fulfilling life.
That you could be living more.
Yeah, that I could be living more. And then I just started praying a lot about, like, to God and what that might look like for myself. And then I was like, all right, like, I know that God exists. I know that He loves me. I accept in Jesus's death and resurrection, and so like I understand these to be truths. So let's give this a shot, kind of again, and like more seriously than ever before. And so I thought a lot about the transition to college and what that might look like, and I was very kind of had this attitude of the lifestyle and the habits I set up during college will be how I live the rest of my life. Like, I want this to be the training grounds for adulthood. Mm-hmm. Which it's still, like, I still feel like we're kids here, but I do my best to try to, to think more maturely. And so I came here and I was like, all right, I'm going to first give up XYZ ways of life. I'm going to commit to, like, just daily being with God, whether that means praying, reading the Bible, meditating, and I'm going to surround myself with like-minded individuals, people who are also pursuing Christ, people who are also Christian. And the way my story goes, I wish there was kind of like a moment I could talk about, but the truth is, and take it as you will, my life just has been the most peaceful, fulfilling, joyous, full it has like ever been, and there's two ways to look at that. You can just say that, oh, like I've adopted kind of a way of life that's perhaps like monastic, and perhaps that is like giving me a sense of purpose to follow, which is true, but I believe that it has really just been like me recommitting to my relationship with God, and Him thus like pouring back into me, like He has always been there. I like to think of it like God is always there for everyone. Like His hand is right there. It's a matter of whether you are willing to take a step forward or you are backing away. And as soon as I kind of met God where He was at, like He met me where I was at. And again, like I said, like during college, like these have just, just this past year and a half or so have, again, been the most peaceful, fulfilling, nourishing, joyous time in my life. The people I'm surrounded by have just been the best, some of the best people I've been with in my life. The relationships I've been able to cultivate with other Christians and also non-believers, like whatever, just people in general, like the ways I've been able to build relationships and grow personally has just been something where I cannot help but think that it has been kind of like God responding to my commitment to Him. So to answer your question, that is how I am convicted of being a Christian.
That's awesome. I think that's a really cool story. I mean, that's amazing that life right now is it sounds like life right now is, I don't want to say peak, but like very, according to your like variables as to what makes a good life, it seems that you're hitting a lot of them right now.
Yeah, and I will also say that, to be a Christian or to believe in God doesn't mean your life's going to be like sunshines and rainbows. It kind of feels that way for me, and I'm very grateful, but I know that like suffering and hardships will come, and they're bound to come. But I will say, when that does come, my hope would be that in me there is still just such a core of purpose and God's presence in my life that even despite that, I am still like just grateful for life, and I am still praising Him and still expecting kind of like like my end goal to be with him, so that I would still hopefully feel the same kind of nourishment and joy
Right.
and all those things that I'm feeling now, despite, if I face suffering or
Right. Worldly
or-
hardships.
Yeah, just
Typical
hardships. Yeah,
hardships, yeah.
because that's gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then, do you think in those times of hardships, like, I don't like, what is the word? Are you still trying to be happy during those times, like, or is it just trying to be faithful during those times? Like,
Yeah.
what is the goal during those hardship times?
I think staying faithful because, the Bible talks about how there's like a time or season for everything. I'm forgetting the specific passage, but like there's a time to be happy, there's a time to be sad, there's a time to be frustrated. And those are very human experiences. But yes, the goal is to be faithful, to know that in every situation, like God is turning that into something beautiful that will help me to draw closer to him, like grow in a relationship with him, but also take whatever experience like that, whether it be, like good or bad, to be able to then, just like understand more deeply about myself, be able to be more compassionate towards others who are experiencing similar things, to have more empathy. Like there's a lot of, there's just a lot of love and growth and beauty that can happen out of any situation, including times that are like sad or hard. So to be faithful and know that like through that God is still there with me, and he has this like beautiful, magnificent plan to use that for something good and fruitful in my life. So faithful is the right word.
So in those times, it's still okay to be sad, to cry, to hurt. So it's still hard, like, on the emotions, but realistically, if you can stay faithful and, like, continue loving others, like kind of what you said, then would you say it's like a success, or it's a good life? Or
Yeah.
Like what if you don't remain faithful? Like, what if you're like, at one point, not you in particular, but just someone of that faith,
Yeah.
it's like really hard in life, and they say, like, I'm sure this is a question that people ask all the time, but I'm kind of, newbie with the religion stuff. I don't, like, why would God, like, it's so hard, why is it happening?
Yeah.
Like, and then you can say, okay, well, there's a plan that I don't understand, there's this, but, like, what if it's, like, to such an extent where you're like, I understand it's a plan that I don't understand, but it's, like, so hard. Like,
Yeah.
what if it's just so intense? You're just like, I can't possibly still have faith after this.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest, like, theological questions, is why is there suffering? Why is there evil? Right?
Right. I'm not really saying that you don't have to answer it, because I know.
No,
it's
yeah, I know.
But it's just something to talk about.
Yeah,
It's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think about it all the time. Like, I mean, thank God sounds ironic, but I'm in a place where I have not experienced that level of suffering, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who have, and also just historically, and you can observe it in our society around us, that people in that dire of suffering and hardship is a turn, can be a radical turn to religion, to God, or a radical turn away, right? Mm-hmm. There are many stories of that. But my half-baked response to that is, and I think I will never truly understand, but my half-baked response is what I was saying before, how, like, even in that most terrible time of suffering, we Christians believe that we, like I said, if we accept Jesus, that we are to be in eternity with him in heaven, and so to have a perspective in which we are, like, so secure in our citizenship in heaven that despite whatever sufferings on earth we face, like, how kind of, like, minuscule and, like, negligible that will be to, like, when we think about eternity, and how are we even supposed to wrap our heads around what eternity is? But to consider that, and then again to consider that when we are experiencing suffering, shame, whatever hardships, that is, like, that God is working through that to just make us more human and therefore like more human to others who are also experiencing that level of suffering and shame, and then to encourage them that there is like hope, that there is like that Jesus offers this like ultimate hope that like if you choose to believe in that too, like we can walk in this together.
And a large part of it, or one part of it that seemed important to me based on what you just said, is the idea that there is something after this life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a question. It's gonna be like a noob question, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if like you can ask this. I don't know. I'm gonna ask it.
You can ask anything you want.
Like if you took that component out of religion.
Yeah.
And this probably like the way of thinking is probably so like outside of how like religious people think, faithful people think.
Yeah.
But like let's say you took the idea of the afterlife or life after the current life out of all of religion, out of all of the Christianity. Would it like change how you think?
Yeah. No, this is a good question, and this is also a like hot theological question.
Oh, I'm asking all the hot ones today.
Yeah.
Hitting all the topics.
My response is, for me, take like zoom out of religion. For me, like philosophically, I think there cannot be purpose. I think there has to be purpose in life, A. B, I think there cannot be purpose in life without an afterlife. So that being said, I think even scoping out of religion, like that is what I fundamentally believe about this world, that there A is a purpose and B is an afterlife because there is purpose. And I don't think there can be a world without objective purpose. And I don't think that there can be purpose without an afterlife.
Afterlife, right.
So then for me, the question becomes, all right, so then what is like the correct religion? What is the correct explanation for afterlife or, purpose? And for me, I believe that Jesus was a person, which is like historically accurate and pretty sound. The kind of toss-up comes if he resurrected, if he like rose from the dead, which I intellectually believe to a degree, but that is why it's faith, because it is faith because we simply don't know 100%. Like I didn't witness that with my own eyes, right? But the faith aspect comes in where I've had, the story I just explained of my life, like I have experienced the presence of God. I've experienced Him in me and around me, so that is why I choose to believe. So yeah, in terms of heaven and afterlife, I think that is just inherent.
That's interesting stuff. I mean, the conversation on religion can go in very different ways. It's like we're in the middle of a spider web, and there's so many things to talk about. Like there's just because you can go in so many ways. Like my first thought after that is, you continue to have faith because you feel the presence of God in your life. My one thought I had while you were speaking is, can we really know what that even feels like? Like, what does God in your life feel like if you don't know exactly either what God is or what God isn't? Like, when God's not, like, I can describe to you what I feel in life. You can describe to me what you feel in life. Really, it's almost, it's very, very difficult to really know exactly how your brain is thinking, and same for me, like, someone else's brain. So, like, how do you know what you felt was God in your life?
Yeah.
Or, like, not how do you know, but, like, why do you... why do you, like, how does your brain come to that conclusion?
Mm-hmm.
What's a thought?
I can say one way, which is through prayer, which people very kind of like simply define as conversation with God. It can also be a lot more than that, but that is kind of like a very basic way to understand it. And so in prayer, I have prayed to God, spoke with Him, and then, heard answers, and not like a voice in my head that is ringing,
Right.
Which I think could happen, but hasn't happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
nor do I expect it to. But in seeing certain situations or events unfold, which again comes back to, if I don't have faith, I could say, oh, it's coincidence. I'm really grateful that something in some way that's happened, or I could attribute it to an all-knowing, all-loving God who has thus provided and heard my cry.
Right. I understand that. At one point, I had a friend who was religious. And it was difficult for me at the time, I was younger, to understand where their identity of religion started and ended, and where their, at the time, I said personal identity started and ended. And I did not know how to, in my head, I felt in that moment, like in that time, that it was almost two people in one. I felt that there was like a divide. Am I talking to religious friend, or am I talking to personal friend? And at the time, my mind was so set on this idea that there's a difference. There's like a divide. And it almost felt as if at the time there was does that friend really have the best intentions for me? If their identity and their self is grounded in a religion, but then they also have a worldly self that's has their own human desires and emotions, a question that I had at the time, and probably still do to an extent, maybe in different ways, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. Is there a divide between those two things? Are they acting in the best interest of the religion, or are they acting in the best interest of themselves? And is that way of thinking just so toxic? Dividing the two? If it's a person, people, I don't know the differences of religions, but some people say they find their identity in their religion. They find their purpose, they find their meaning. And so, is there even a divide? 1 equals 1. It's just the same person, but does that person have human desires and then religious desires? So am I talking to the human version of you, or the religious? For some reason, I don't know if you ever thought like that or met someone who did, but when I was getting increasingly close to this friend, that's kind of a thought that came into my head more and more.
Yeah.
Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah. True faith in Jesus is radical in the sense that there is no divide, because true faith in Jesus is not religious. Let me explain. I think all human beings are on search or discovery of truth. What is truth? And like I said, we Christians believe and know for Jesus to be the truth. As in, Jesus came here as the Son of God. He died, he resurrected for our sins, so that if we might accept that, we might experience eternity with him. So, faith is not, religion is the construct that, or the institution that surrounds faith. And religion is good and can be good. Religion also can be bad. But, when I think of religion, I think of, church and the kind of the surrounding community, which are all great things, which are all what God kind of intended to be good and great. But at its core, my faith is a personal relationship with God, which you'll hear a lot of that, Christians talk about that. And what that means is that, if I am living for God and I have a personal relationship with him, then there is no, religion and personal. God is my everything. And so when I say I am living for God, like that there is no religious side to me and a personal side to me. Like I am who I am, and I am living for God who created me in his image. And also it's kind of, I think it's beautiful that when in the Bible it says, and I believe as a Christian, that like God created everyone in his image. Like that everyone, you and I, we were both created in the image of God. So another way Christians like to answer kind of the purpose of life is that we are to bear the image of God. And so when I say that I am living for God and God is my everything, like at the same time, another way to put that is I am trying to like discover and uncover God within myself. I am not God, but God is within me. And so when I say I'm living for God, like slowly but surely I am trying to bear his image. So like God is, or I'm trying to make it so that God is who I am and God is everything I am. So in that case, there is no religious identity, personal identity.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just your entire person is devoted to that one purpose.
Exactly.
Which includes many things, but one thing, loving others.
Yes.
Including strangers?
Everyone.
Your children?
Everyone.
Everyone. Equally?
That's the goal. I mean, obviously there is like, you know, like God made romantic partners, God made children, families for a reason. Obviously there is a special kind of love that is there. But also at the same time, yeah, the goal is to try to love everyone equally. It doesn't mean you have to be everyone's friend. Right. It doesn't mean you have to like get along with everyone. Also, again, God made us with unique identities and personalities, and some don't mesh as well as others, you know. But a love in the sense of, yeah, of a love that like cares for others, is compassionate, is forgiving.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, thank you for asking such great questions and being so open.
No, it's just I'm just curious about that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I am going to about wrap up this conversation for time's sake. But before we do that, I wanted to maybe give you an opportunity to ask one more question or say one more thing. Last remarks.
I think talking with you is great. I think if I ask more specific questions, you know, I can't just end it there. I'm gonna want to ask more and more questions. So I think we should probably talk again sometime.
Yeah.
I think this is really cool. I think this format of talking is really cool.
Yeah.
Like it's not too formal where it's like we're sitting down with suits and ties and it's not like an interview, right? This is I think it was you know more so of an interview than a normal conversation because it's more formal answers. I think it's super cool to just sit down and like think about this stuff, ask questions, answer questions about both of them. I think it's important and it's cool that it's documented. History, you know, you can look back in 3, 5, 10 years, whatever, and it's there.
Yeah.
Like that's sick. Like I probably won't watch this because I don't want to hear my own voice, but if I watch it in a few years from now,
yeah.
Hopefully I'll have the file or whatever. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that's I think it's super cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
I think it's really cool. So yeah, thanks for talking to me. Thanks for asking the questions, and thanks for being open with my questions.
Yeah, and thanks for being here. Like this has been just an awesome conversation, and you have more questions, and after this we have plenty of more time to chat.
We do
get to know each other. So
yeah,
how great is that? And yeah, thank you for those kind and encouraging words about this podcast, because that's like that kind of encapsulates what I want this to be. Like, I'm not doing this to make this like famous. I'm not trying to be like a podcast influencer or whatever. Like
a lot of those nowadays.
Nor am I expecting anyone to watch this. I hope that if anyone does stumble across any piece of this and is, and gets them to think in a new way or challenge their thoughts or to be encouraged or inspired or whatever, like that's awesome,
That's one thing. I mean, we didn't even that's a whole different rabbit or can of worms. Is like what where do you want it to go? What are your intentions? Like, that's just something we could talk about another time. It's
But
plans for it.
But to answer that, like I don't know. I just want this to be kind of like a space environment that is created for deep, interesting conversation with other people, and kind of that's that.
Interesting keyword.
Interesting keyword. Exactly.
Interesting is a keyword.
Sweet. At the end of every episode, I like to pray for my guest. Okay. So could I pray for you at this moment?
Sure. Yeah. Is there anything I should do or?
Usually we close our eyes and then you can just listen and receive. Sweet. And then I'll say amen and then the prayer will be over.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for this time with Tyler. I'm so glad that in this past hour and a half or so that we just got to talk, get to know each other, ask each other good questions, and just learn about each other, God. That how cool is it that we get to stumble into each other's lives and then get to sit down and have a conversation like this. God, what a beautiful thing. And I'm grateful for just Tyler's presence here, the way he has engaged with me and the way that he has asked great questions and given great responses himself, and just put himself out there and be open with me and share about his life with me and inquire of my life and thoughts and perspectives and really be interested. So I'm really grateful for this time. God, I pray that for Tyler, I pray that he has taken this hiatus from trading and kind of learning a lot of new things about himself. And I really appreciate how humble he is and open to growth and realizing or seeing how much there is to constantly learn and grow toward. I pray that God, you would really be with him, that maybe Tyler would know what it's like to experience your presence, God, that, as I said, that you are waiting for him and right there, and you are unmoving, God, that maybe Tyler feels certain steps to just inquire more and just be curious about your presence or what it's like to have faith. I pray that maybe those experiences, he might have certain experiences that lead him there. I also just pray that he would have a great rest of his sophomore year. I pray that there's only 1 month of school left, that we would both make the most out of this last month to continue engaging in relationships and dialogue like this. God, thank you for this time. I'm really, really grateful once again, and allow us to have a great rest of our evening and a great rest of our weeks. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you.
That is it.
Awesome.
Any final remarks?
I appreciate the prayer. I feel good.
Of course.
I feel positive. I feel light.
Yeah. Let's go. Praise God.
I feel good.
Nice. What are you up to after this?
Getting dinner.
Nice.
I'm hungry. I'm probably gonna eat chicken and 2 sides.
Nice.
Classic BC food. And then after that, I'm calling an advisor I'm going to Hong Kong in the fall.
Nice.
To study abroad.
Awesome.
So I'm talking to a family friend who's been there. Are you going abroad?
Yeah, I'm going to Rome in the spring.
Rome?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. What made you pick Rome?
Never been to Europe.
Damn.
So that's my excuse for going to Europe, even though everyone goes to Europe.
That's my reason for Asia.
Okay.
Never been to Asia.
Nice.
That's literally my main reason.
Nice. And never been to Europe, and so first country that came to mind was Italy. I guess vibes, but I mean also I know a lot of people like in high school. I live in New Jersey, so there are like Italian Americans around, and my friends would go to Italy and talk of Italy, and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. And so I chose Italy, and then after that, it was a lot of logistics with like the program dates. Like I wanted to have a program that aligned with the school schedule here. One of the main reasons being I wanted to be back in time for graduation to shoot graduation photos as a photographer.
I've seen your photos; they're great.
Thank you.
Incredible.
So I wanted to be back, and so the Rome program it ends like early May. So I was like, okay, that works.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, man.
We'll both be experiencing new things.
We will be both experiencing new things.
Cool.
That has been it. That wraps up episode 21 of SehoPod.
I am 21.
Thank you once again, Tyler, for joining me. And I hope to see everyone for episode 22. And that's that.
Peace.